This is The Flower of Freedom, an original book by Deborah J. Reeves. All rights to both the book and presentation are reserved. This is chapter 69. We hope that you will make yourself comfortable as always. We welcome you and your good heart. This is a safe and comfortable place. We're getting into interesting territory. This is chapter 69. Let's begin. The arena. Hans took a taxi from his hotel to another hotel about a block from the bank. He rented a modest room and he left his shopping in the room. There was a new leather suitcase, some underwear and socks, a tracksuit and some shoes. He had also gotten a second ski jacket, a hat, a scarf, and some gloves. They were different from those he normally wore, much brighter. Some strudel from his favorite shop was in there too. He went out the back door of the hotel and he passed the bar and found his way through the back street to a side street next to the bank. All the while he reflected on yesterday. He was certain that his luck had changed as mercurially as it had changed to his advantage for his whole life long. He was holding the documents that would magnify his net worth by a factor of 20 or more in one day. That was luck, pure luck. He had not known Klaus was sick. Neither had he known the old man was that fond of him or that rich. Neither had he known the old man was looking out for him. It was all surprising. Hans observed as the employees left the bank, and he watched his watch. He pulled down his hat when the bell tower struck 4, and he watched as the manager locked the door behind the last employee. When the employee turned the corner, Hans walked up the stairs to the entrance, and he knocked. The manager opened the door promptly and greeted him. "Follow me," he said. Hans followed him into a nondescript back office. "This is the office of a secretary," he informed Hans. "It has access to the systems, but the secretary knows nothing of that. No one will think to search for any transactions from this location. I'm making this transfer by telex." The banker typed in the telex destination of Montreal, and then the details of the payment and the security code. The machine was set up for the following day, so the carbon copy and the original were easy to tear off. The banker put both copies into a metal wastepaper basket, and he dropped in a match. It was then that Hans handed him the document he had been given that transferred Klaus's assets to him. They were clearly signed and notarized, but the bank manager still looked up at Hans with raised eyebrows. "I hadn't expected this." "I didn't either. He gave it to me today. He's dying and he wants everything wrapped up. Can you handle it?" "Yes, I think so. Most of his assets are here in the bank, and they're not part of the normal accounting that the central bank has access to. So yes, I do not see any real difficulty. This transfer will save the bank from being embroiled in Herr Hammerling's estate. He told me to tell you that his lawyer will be sending the proceeds of his house here as well. I want to direct you to forward them on to the same place. Can you do that?" "If you simply sign an authorization, it will be no problem. Sending it through a lawyer is clever. I will intercept it when it arrives and move it along to the destination that you have specified." Hans always found bankers so easy to deal with. They understood numbers. There was no emotion involved. They could either do it or they could not. There was no arguing or negotiating. It was easy as long as they understood what was in it for them. This guy understood what was in it for him. He had gotten rich by being the invisible man, and he was very good at being invisible. The banker repeated the same telex process with the new funds, and he used a different security code. After the original and the copy were burned the second time, Hans laid a key for the safety deposit box on the desk. I would also like to empty this box. They went out of the secretary's office and down to the vault where the safety deposit boxes were. Hans produced a manila envelope and he stuffed a few papers and other items, and then he slid the envelope into his pocket inside his ski jacket while the banker stood at the door. "Are we finished now?" Hans asked. The banker nodded and told Hans the exact number that would be waiting in Montreal, under the name of Bertrand Saint Laurent. "This is the date of birth and the home address that you gave me." Hans had learned that much by hiring a PI in Montreal for just a few hours. "Will the young man be informed of the account?" Hans asked. "Not unless you tell him," said the banker. "But then, in the event of your own death, he would be informed when the estate is probated, I would think." "I'm not planning to die anytime soon," said Hans. "I have a lot to do before I kick the bucket," he asserted, and both he and the banker smiled. "It's been a pleasure to do business with you," the banker said, while thinking how relieved he would be to be rid of the two World War II era Nazis in one day. They had provided handsomely for his retirement, but enough was enough. "When you're ready, I will unlock the door for you," he said. "Thanks for your help," Hans said as his final goodbye. Once outside the bank, Hans noted something totally unexpected. There on that quiet street, about 4 buildings down on the opposite side, there was a girl with a loud ski jacket, just like the one he had seen at the ski resort. She was the little brunette, about 17 years old, and she was getting out of a car. Behind her came another girl he had seen at the resort. She was the little blonde, about the same age, who had reminded him of the commandant's girlfriend at the chateau so many years ago. Then he kept watching, and out stepped his son. From the rear of the car, the driver leveraged out a large bag of equipment and something that Hans had only seen on television: hockey sticks. Hans looked up, and he realized that they were in front of an arena. Everyone was chattering and happy. 3 more boys emerged from the back of the car. One was the curly-haired boy he'd seen at the resort. Another was the long, tall, skinny boy with a bit of acne, and the third boy Hans felt sure he had never seen before. Hans retreated to the street that was perpendicular to the bank to get a better view. He didn't want to be noticed, but he needn't have worried. They were all involved with the coming game. The unknown boy spoke with his son, and it seemed that he was telling him where they would go. That boy turned to the others and he pointed to a direction that they should take. The 2 older men went back into the front seat of the car, telling the group that they would meet them inside after they had parked the car. The young people moved into the arena, and Hans could see his son and the new boy go in one direction with their equipment, while the others turned in the other direction. Hans waited a couple of minutes until he saw the older 2 men enter the arena, and then he crossed the street and he entered the arena himself. That's the end of this chapter. The next one is called Game On. We hope you'll be here for that. Thank you.